Every morning I wake up in the Australian bush. I am reminded of the stark differences between the Australian bush and the African bush. And I'm talking mainly about Southern Africa bush and Western Australia. That's where most of my experience is. There are so many similarities, but the main difference, which is stark, is that right now there's absolute silence. And in fact, I heard a bird as I was getting out of my camper. You can hear it in the distance, but there are so few birds. During the night, nothing. No insects, nothing. The African bush can be very, very noisy. Welcome then to part 3 of my solo trip, where my travelling companions are you, the audience. I've just kind of run the camera, let the camera roll with my thoughts and some of the processes of filming my show, and some lovely stories about extreme remote trips that I've done in the past. If you'd like to download the entire series right now, the link is in the description. And in the morning is always noisy with birds call. The morning sunrise heralded by every bird in the neighbourhood welcoming the sun. There are so few birds here, I imagine they also herald and welcome the sun, but there are so few of them, you don't hear it. I'm Andrew St Pierre White, explorer, overlander and broadcaster with over 40 years driving 4x4s. Welcome to 4X Overland. I'm a prisoner of this hill. I can have my ritual cup of coffee this morning. I was very cold. No. It was very cold. I managed to stay warm. Just, you know, when it's like when you're sleeping and it's cold and you just on the edge of staying warm. Little bits of you, like if you're lying on your side, the little top of your thigh, it's a little bit cold, and I'd kept my socks on, luckily, because I think I would have been far colder if I'd had cold feet. But twice in the middle of the night woke up because the temperature plummeted. Nights when solo travelling, I find them a little tough. I got to push through. I feel very lonely, but only at night. During the day I love this, love it, live for it. Anyway, where's my cup? Here it is. Micro waste. There's actually I first heard the expression micro waste in far northern California. We had driven into a game reserve, and they had some big signs about micro waste. Those little cigarette butts and the little bits of that, and in their particular environment, the environmental challenge was that some of the birds would choke on it and die, and they had an endangered species of, can't remember what bird it was, but they were pleas, that, you know, not fleas, pleas to the visitors, watch out for your micro waste. And I suppose I always have to a degree, but since then, much more. because you never know what animals might be around that might be badly affected by something you leave on the ground. Anyway, here's my coffee. Now this coffee system is actually very wasteful. For me to have a cup of coffee and clean up afterwards, it's at least half a litre, if not as much as a litre of water just to do coffee. So I also carry instant coffees, because if I'm in a situation where I'm running out of water, I can still have coffee, but not have my favorite coffee. I have been doing this a very, very long time, and I sometimes wonder if you're interested in what I'm doing anymore. I'm not less interested in doing it. In some ways I'm less interested in sharing it with you, only because I think, well, I've already done that before, and I've done exactly this before in the Australian bush, and woken up in the morning and made myself a coffee. There's nothing new about what I'm presenting to you now, I don't think. The lessons that I find myself repeating to you, I think almost all of them I've done before, and if not, they're on the Overland Workshop. So I think to myself, well, how do I keep these things interesting? And I actually don't have an answer. I think that is why perhaps I'm starting the podcast. And the podcast I'm doing is something quite different, or am doing. By the time you get to see this video, it's running already. I promised one of my Patreons that I would do something on the camera equipment I use. Camera Nomadic is a Patreon of mine. It has been for a while. And I apologize for my lacking here. I actually shot that on the Canning stock route, on the camera equipment I use. And the camera equipment I'm using right now, it's the same. So here it is. Preparing for today's drive. With quite a lot of varied terrain expected today, which is really exciting. Camera I'm using, that's a 100 to 400 millimeter Sony G lens. I use that tripod, which obviously you can't see because it's the stuff that I use during the day is in the front of the car, including my drone, so I can get it out, get it flying quickly. Stuff that I use for a situation like this, where I'm sitting up on a tripod, I'm getting beauty shots. These are my lenses. That is a 24 to 70 f2.8 with a variable ND filter on the front of it. That's my go-to standard lens. The lens I'm using at the moment on the camera at the moment, the camera is the Sony A7S III. Wonderful low light camera. I love this camera. It just does so beautiful things to images, particularly when the light is low. Wonderful machine. I have a 24 f1.4. That's the quality of that, the image quality of that is just glorious. I love using that lens, but of course wide angle. And this one is a 90mm macro. Those are the four lenses that I go to often. That's the camera that I use. It's a great, just a kind of gun and run camera, wide angle lens, and that is the 10 to 18 millimeter APS lens. In other words, it's a full frame camera. That's the A7 III, but the lens is not a full frame lens, but it's extremely lightweight, and it's wide angle, and that's why I use it for I can literally just turn it on. The microphone, first shot this morning, I can turn it on, roll camera, and then I get a shot of me. I can do a thing like that. I've got a zoom, so I can go back in, and autofocus is really good on this little camera. I've got it set onto high speed so it reacts very quickly. So and this is my camera, and I can run up to things. It's internal stabilization, no stabilization in the lens, but there is good stabilization in the camera body, so I can get a fairly reasonably stable shot with the camera moving. Both cameras use the same batteries, and the charger is here. So the chargers, I've always got a battery on charge, and I just rotate them. So I'll take this battery's running out right now. It won't have enough current in it to last the day. So before I drive out of here, I'll just quickly swap them. So by the time we reach our destination, or while I'm on the track, if there's something really beautiful to film, I'll have a fresh battery. I've got a drawer. This has basic tools in it for fixing up cameras, setting up GoPros, GoPro mounts, all kinds of things there. In fact, that's a GoPro camera that needs to go back in there. I have a second GoPro camera. Oh, there it is. These are actually not GoPros, but the DJI action cameras. And this is what Rob used last night to get some shots while he was swimming. And so I put that in the front with that, so I can grab it anytime during the day. I can grab it. In fact, I'm actually going to put this in the front as well, because if I can clamp that little clamp there onto, I've got a couple of mounts, one on the bonnet, one on the roof, and I can put that somewhere facing forward, give me a nice vision. So I'm going to put those three there in preparation for today. So filming while I'm actually traveling is this camera here. It looks a bit clumsy, but these two mounts allow it to take a reasonably steady shot, and it's a very, very high quality. This is an A7 III, and this is a very high quality camera. The thing is, though, with this is that it's so much better quality than something like a GoPro, which really, they're okay in bright light, but as soon as the light gets marginal, the image is absolute rubbish. So I like to use this. But on the Canon, that microphone connection there failed, and I only noticed it I think it was on day 3 when the wind was blowing. The road definitely sweeps to the west, and I would check footage every day to make sure I'm doing okay, and I noticed that the wind noise was terrible. Fuel consumption skyrockets. But I had just purchased this microphone, this very, very microphone. And so I thought, well, is the microphone no good? This microphone's an absolute beauty. So is the microphone, what's wrong with the microphone? Why isn't the microphone shielding it from the wind? And I realized, in fact, that was not turning off the camera's microphone and turning on this microphone. So then this camera became, I just used it for still pictures only. And so that's why a lot of the Canon was shot with a camera that I would have preferred not to shoot it with, because the quality wasn't good enough. But that's sometimes what's one of the most common problems, as I've said 100 times. If you're going to have problems with equipment while shooting, 99%, 99 over 100 will be sound. It'll be something to do with the sound. And because I'm appearing on camera, I don't want to wear headphones all the time to monitor the sound, which is what you would do if we had a camera crew. You'd have a dedicated sound person. That dedicated sound person would say on the first minute of footage, say, hey, that sound is terrible. But of course, I can't do that. About 10 kilometers or so north of where I camped, the road is now a very high quality smooth gravel. At Warburton we will head south on the Connie Sue Highway, and I'm noticing, and I'll stop the next one I see, I've seen 4 burnt out cars on the side of the road. The interesting thing is that they're not just crashed cars, they're burnt out, and I wonder why they're burnt. And then none of them I've seen over in new. This is about the 15th I've seen and we've done approximately 100 kilometers on this road. I don't know what this is. I think it's a Holden station wagon of some kind, but they're always burnt out. And they are working on the road. I can see that they've been grading it, and there's actually been quite a bit of traffic, 1 or 2 road trains, and here's actually, while I'm speaking now, a guy coming along. It's quite slow going. Got about 500 k's to go still. I'm achieving 2 things on this trip. I'm completing 2 journeys. In 2018, Kate and I crossed Australia. Well, I actually crossed the easy way, crossed the bottom, and then the 2 of us crossed via the Simpson Desert and ended up at Uluru, and there declared that I was incredibly tired. I'd been on the road for by then over 3 weeks, and I was very, very tired, and I wanted to show Kate the cliffs on the Great Australian Bight, and I was very tired, and I decided not to take this road. This is the Great Northern Highway that actually continues up to Uluru and Alice Springs, and this was the road that I would have come down on. The other one is the Connie Sue Highway. When I did it in 2019, it was just before COVID struck and ended travel for a period. I travelled from Lenora in an easterly direction on the Anbidell Highway, joined up with the Connie Sue Highway, which runs north-south. Now, they're not highways, they're tracks. They're just called highways. More about that later. They're not highways. They're very, very remote tracks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to complete the Connie Sue, because the Connie Sue actually runs from Warburton, 300 kilometers in front of us now, and I'm going to do the entirety of the Connie Sue. So kind of ticking 2 boxes with this trip. I might try and find a blanket at a store, and which can take up a little bit more time because I got a little bit of an itchy throat, just a slight, and it's because, I know me, it's because I've been cold, and I would hate this to turn into a full-blown sore throat. So vitamin C it is, maybe a warm night, get a blanket, fuel up, and then leave at daybreak tomorrow, which means I don't have to rush now. I can just take it easy and just get done what I need doing. It's approaching 4:30 and I have arrived at Warburton. Time to fuel up all my tanks and my emergency jerry can and get a blanket if I can find one. It's $3 a litre, so this is going to be pretty expensive, but that's kind of normal for these really remote places. No available accommodation, nowhere to buy a blanket, so I have to camp. I'm trying to find the track now. My GPS is not giving me the details that I need, so I'm having to use the road map. And we've got 1 kilometer to go, and there should be a track that'll lead me onto the Connie Sue Highway.
sign there and a track. The sign is just an arrow, but this is a track.